Hello and welcome back to Replay, the show where games are art. We're continuing on with Final Fantasy VI, and we come back to Narshe. And that was just a clue, if we come back earlier in the game, that A, there's a Moogle here, log, and B, we need a treasure hunter to open a locked door, which is what we just did, and got attacked on our way through it. So, Narshe is yet another different response to the state of the world. You know, in Moogle, we saw a town where all the adults had died and only the kids survived. So there was about surviving with loss, essentially. Most of the other towns we've been to have been some variant of that. People are living there, but they've experienced loss or are concerned about the state of the world, so on and so forth. The only real exception was Jador, which, they're all super rich and can survive. And now Narshe, which, with the exception of this one dude, who I just took a nap in front of, with the exception of this one dude, there's no one in Narshe. It's got no people in it at all. There's just this one guy who used to run the weapons shop and has an immensely powerful Esper. But he gives you the option to either have it be a sword Ragnarok or the Esper Ragnarok. It's kind of interesting that the game gives you this choice. I go with the stone. Even though I know there are other ways to learn Ultima, the spell that Ragnarok gives you, frankly, the other way of getting it is a pain in the ass. And one person with a powerful sword is just not as good as giving your entire party a game-breaking spell. But then, that's exactly it. The spell is game-breakingly powerful. It's ridiculously overpowered. But that's really how it should be. Magic is depicted in this game as this, world-destroying force. It's depicted as akin to nuclear weapons in the first half of the game. Well, now in the second half of the game, we get a straight-up magical nuke, which is what the Ultima spell will be once one of my characters has actually learned it. Meanwhile, I've got Locke with Phoenix because that just feels appropriate, since he's the one with the whole quest related to it. Now, at this point, Locke's character development is basically done. He's let go of Rachel. The game, as it tends to do, will therefore leave a lot open to our own interpretation, our own opportunity to fill in the blanks. But the way I've always read this, in combination with the ending, is that now that he's let go of Rachel, he no longer sees Celeste as a substitute. She came for him. She went looking for him and brought the whole party in the course of doing so. And so she's not like Rachel, who was someone that couldn't come along on his adventures, that when she tried, got very badly harmed. Celeste is an equal partner in this adventure. Frankly, being a more magically inclined character, she's kind of better at this than him by this point in the game. He's outclassed. Celeste is a solid physical fighter and a very powerful caster. Locke is fast. He's decent at fighting, he's decent at magic, but he's just not a top-tier character the way that Celeste is. And so I think it's about him accepting that this is someone he doesn't need to protect, and as such, he's starting to see Celeste for herself. Which is what he offers for Celeste, someone who sees her for herself. We've talked before about how she tends to function as a mirror for other characters. With Locke, he's starting to see her as she is. And that's an incredibly powerful thing to experience. Yeah, anyway. So yeah, she's finally got someone who sees her for herself. He's finally got someone that doesn't need his protecting people thing, allowing him to grow out of that. And so I think they become, kind of from this point on in the game, a thing. Again, it's not actually shown because this is a Super Nintendo game and it doesn't really have the space for that much story for that many characters. And so Locke's story essentially ends here. But that, I think it's given us what we need to see where it's going. So, we've gotten back outside again. I'm not hugely happy with the amount my characters have learned. But I was hoping to get Fire 3 before I got here, but oh well. So, as I was saying, this town has been completely abandoned except for that one dude and one Moogle, which is a nice bit of reflectiveness. But the point is it's been overrun by monsters, and that's a slightly different thing from the other towns we've seen, the other versions of the apocalypse we've seen. This is everyone is dead or gone. This is a world revolutionized to the point, its structures of power destroyed to the point. Let's not fight the dragon before we use the save point. Thank you. It's a world where structures of power have been overturned to the point that one of the ones we take most for granted, that humans are on top and the rest of life on Earth is beneath us, has been violated. I hope that goes away at the end of the battle. I can't remember if it does or not. Or at least, if it doesn't, the 10 will get rid of it. I can't remember if that does or not. I hope it does. Anyway, regardless, that's something that is increasingly in our consciousness. This is the frozen world without humans post the magical nuke. You know, we got the magical nuke, then we come up here. This is nuclear winter. This is humanity have destroyed themselves and are no longer to be found. And, you know, snow and animals have overrun the Earth. And strange mutated creatures, which is what I'm assuming the weird red floaty things are. And, frankly, the little dudes in cloaks. Alright. Like I said, I would much rather have had Fire 3 before I did this, but let's give it a shot. I vaguely recall this as being one of the more difficult dragons. Yeah. So, it's a future that, like I was saying, we are becoming increasingly aware of. We're in the latter half of the 20th century, between the fears of nuclear annihilation and growing awareness of environmental issues that started in the 60s. We've become aware that a world without us is a possibility. That we do, in fact, possess the capacity to destroy ourselves utterly. That's something which was not always within human reach. Now, until relatively historically recently, no group of humans had the power to do something that would kill all groups of humans. Now, the last time that had been true was back tens of thousands of years ago when we first came out of Africa. There were only a handful of us. You know? Now, there are... Wow, this is really not going well. Now, we do have that capacity, either of rendering the planet uninhabitable for us through overconsumption of resources, or straight up blowing ourselves up. It's possible. And that's something that I think a lot of our output now reflects, especially, you know, the growing popularity of like post-apocalyptic type works. The post-apocalyptic, as opposed to the apocalyptic, which is really the phase the game is in now. It was apocalyptic. It was a story of how a world came to end. Now, it's after that. It's post-apocalypse. It's here's the scattered band of human survivors coming together to save themselves and find a way to live. Okay, good. I'm not frozen. Life 2 would also be a really nice thing to have. Anyway, I think that's where... Oh my god. I'm never gonna get to attacking again, am I? I'm just gonna go for it. Maybe I'm lucky and he's, you know, like 1 or 2 hits away from defeat. Maybe I'm lucky. He's like 1 or 2 hits away from defeat. Oh god. Okay, this is getting... If Realm can pull this off by herself, that'll be kind of amazing. I mean, this is why I bother with her. Everyone else is dead. She's still holding on. She's frickin' Realm. She's disturbingly powerful in the game. Mid-late. But yeah, the apocalypse genre is about hope that the world can change. Oh no. Post-apocalypse? Does that work? Can I cast fire on myself from inside? No. No, I can't. Ow. Oh god, and as soon as I break out, I'm going to cast fire on myself, aren't I? If I even get that opportunity. Post-apocalypse is about the hope that... So, apocalypse is about the hope that our corrupt world will be destroyed. Post-apocalypse is about the hope that in the aftermath, we can come together. That we can survive. You know, that even in the aftermath of a great disaster, we are strong and smart and good and can build something new. It's like the main difference between the two really is political. Apocalypse is a revolutionary genre of literature. It's, you know, it dates back to the ancient Near East, under first the Sadducees and then the Romans, and it's, you know, about first the ancient Jews and then kind of the early Christians picked it up, wanting to see their oppressors destroyed, and that's what it's about. It's about the spectacle of the destruction of the oppressor. Post-apocalypse is not about that. Post-apocalypse is saying we're good, we're tough, we're smart, and we'll live even after terrible disaster. It's it's not revolutionary. It's not as supportive of the status quo as something like a disaster movie or that kind of thing, which is about we're good and strong and can survive the quote-unquote revolution. It's not going to... I know here. You don't. I know I don't. Oh, here is something. It's not going to destroy us. Structures of power of our society are strong. Post-apocalypse isn't really about the structures of power at all. It's about us as... that might help. Us as people. Us as, humanity, as opposed to a particular way of living. And that, we'll make it through. It's still, like anything else, that is a political position, but it's not as overtly politically applicable with the other two genres. And it's ultimately compatible with either. By creating a work that depicts both, the revolution gone wrong, and now us in the aftermath. Oh boy, this is not going great. By depicting that, it's giving us, oh my god, this is not going well at all. I may have to actually grind. I don't think I've had to do that yet this game. Unless I just have... yeah. Maybe I'll get lucky and he's supposed to die. Why did I just do that? What the hell, me? As I was saying, it's actually contributing to that theme of balance. It's saying, revolution is needed, but has to be the right revolution, and in the aftermath, you do need to build something new. You can't just destroy and leave it at that. You need to have a plan for after. Which I don't know that I necessarily agree with that as a political statement, but I think that's what the game is saying. That it's all well and good to hope for the overthrow of our oppressors, but what do we do then? Because if we just leave it open, anybody can step in. Any clown can step in and claim power. And here's the other reason we came here. Remember this guy? Way back at the beginning of the game? Now, so, and again, actually, at about the midpoint, when he woke Terra to her Esper form. He's, back. We're fighting him once more. This time, the goal is to essentially break away the ice around him. That's why fire spells are the way to go here. And yeah, after that experience with the dragon, I'm definitely going to use haste 2 as much as possible. But yeah, I think the idea behind this battle is that he's actually asleep in that ice, lashing out at us instinctively. And it's only once we clear the ice away that he'll realize he's not under attack. We're trying to free him. Man, physical attacks are not effective. fire really, really is. I really hate that move. The main reason I think this isn't a quote-unquote real battle is the fact that where's the battle music? You know, the fact that it's still using the World Town music for this fight suggests to me that this is not a real fight. Just us chipping, Tritalk free. Which I forget what his name is in the more faithful translation. It's definitely not Tritalk. That was a name they basically just made up for him because letter counts. Yeah, he's not even aware that the War of the Magi ended. But happily joins us. And is, if I remember correctly, in essence, I think this might... I don't know. I don't remember what this is. Oh. This is a new dungeon, which I do not want to be in yet. Alright. So... And as long as we're back out, I think I'm going to change up my party. So... First... Startalk's not really... Alright, I'm going to work out exactly what I want to give people and so on. And come back once I've done that. Alright, so we are back in Narshe. And taking a slightly different route, which I believe will get us to yet another one of the things to find in here. Mog. Of course, there are several mentions of a Moogle being down here. And obviously that's Mog. As you can see, I've swapped out Locke for Sabin, although I'm going to probably swap him out for Mog at the first opportunity. I rather like what you can do with Mog late in the game after you picked up a couple of dragon-related items. Specifically the Dragoon Boots and the Dragon Horns. Long story short, bouncy. I find it pretty entertaining. That said, I believe I was talking about... Okay, that was slightly off. But I believe I was talking about the town and the way it's been, you know, abandoned and overrun by monsters. I think it's interesting that it's particularly Narshe that happened to, because, alright, Vector was completely wiped off the map. That was the most technologically advanced city in the world. Figaro and Narshe, Figaro Castle and Narshe were basically number 2 and 3. Figaro got buried completely, and Narshe has been abandoned, and everyone is dead except for one human and one Moogle. I think that's pretty telling. I think the restoration of magic to the world, you know, there's an opposition being drawn between magic and technology, and the restoration of magic to the world wiped out the most technological places. And that gets again into this idea of magic is chaos and technology is order. They're opposed in that sense. It's a little odd because when you think about it, and when you look at the history, they're not opposed at all. It's a common theme in the modern day, but historically, there really was no opposition. The people we think of as the great scientists of the Renaissance, were engaged in magical practice as well. Newton was deeply into numerology and alchemy. Boyle, who discovered gas laws, was also an alchemist. Johannes Kepler, who contributed massively to astronomy, particularly planetary astronomy, was an astrologer. And sometimes there's an effort to depict this as like, oh, he was just working as an astrologer because that was where the money was. He never actually believed it. But if you look at their writings, like, they did believe in very mystical stuff, especially Newton. Newton was very mystically inclined. He did believe in that idea of the clockwork universe that was so popular in the 19th century, but he believed that essentially the hand of God turned the crank that ran that clockwork universe, and that alchemy represented the point where the spiritual, mystical, religious realm of the divine entered into this clockwork and gave it life. Did I just heal them? I wonder what element that was. Oh well. And the reason why, like, that's always been the way it is. Like, religious and magical practice gave birth to science for most of history. And the reason why is because they're not opposed. They're both ultimately... Oh, here's Mog. And that's it. A lot of the characters in this game suffer from a lack of development, and Mog is possibly chief of those. Although here we do find out something about him. He's got a friend. That's actually the area we were at before that I warped out of. And a very important item, the Moogle charm, which turns off random encounters. That can be very handy in some spots. But yes, let's get Mog in the party while I continue nattering on about magic and science and why they're not really opposed. Essentially, what happened is magic has always been an attempt to understand the world in symbolic terms and use that to manipulate the forces of which the world is essentially made. Yeah. Alright. I should have... Yeah. Sounds... Why not? It's not like we're going to be getting that many magic points when none of my people have... I have absolutely no armor he can equip. That's bad. But since we're not going to be getting into random encounters anyway, it's not that big a deal. So yeah, magic has always been a system of symbols used to understand the forces of the world and try to manipulate and control them. That's how science and technology is. It's just that over centuries of doing magic, people started to figure out what worked reliably and what didn't. They slowly started to figure out that the symbolic understanding worked better through math than you know, words and images. They started to understand that, how to manipulate those forces reliably in ways that undeniably worked, as opposed to, the more the more unreliable, unpredictable, and often completely imaginary workings of other forms of magic. But all along, there were elements that did work because they were, quote unquote, scientific. Going back thousands of years, we can see, astrologers making star charts that laid the groundwork for modern astronomy. Astronomers, alchemists discovering how to work with materials, discovering chemicals and acids and formulae. All right, let's find this sucker. I've now got on Mog the combination I was talking about that I like. He can now jump, but I'm gonna have to dance first. And fail. Wonderful. Mog's dances get steadily less useful as the game goes on. They're almost useless in World of Ruin. I might still play around with them a little, but mostly now he's good for jumping. Assuming he gets a chance to move, which he won't. But what the Dragoon Boots do is they replace the fight command with the jump command, which takes a little longer, but does a little bit more damage. However, oh god. If you're equipped with a spear, which only Mog and Edgar can equip, the jump command does significantly more damage. Dragonhorn, though it's not very well explained, what it does is causes jump command to hit multiple times. Combine the two, which you have to because nobody can get the jump command without, so dragon, whatever it's called, useless otherwise. And you get a pretty potent attack. Okay, well, I got a treasure chest out of this at least. The only problem with jump is it is kinda slow. And while on the one hand, the character can't be targeted by most things, on the other, yeah, with that black belt on, and this apparently the only encounter that happens down here, I may well not get to use it until the boss fight, but regardless. They can't be targeted by most things, which makes them immune to most attacks, but they also can't be targeted by most things, so it's hard to heal them. You have to catch them, you have to target them while they're on the ground, and cast the spell while they're on the ground. If they jump in between those times, oh goddammit, it doesn't happen. Oh good, a larger group of enemies. Something might happen. Or not. But yeah, the result is that historically, magic and science, science did not emerge from a rejection of magic, it was just sort of a gradual division as the more mystical techniques were more and more abandoned by the more scientifically inclined practitioners. Oh my god, it's a Tonberry. This is... wow. So this is... you've never played a Final Fantasy game before. This is a Tonberry. They're one of the most powerful enemies in the series. They recur again and again. For some reason, they're called pugs in this game. Presumably because Tonberry wouldn't fit character limit. I believe this is the first game where they appeared. But yeah, they're a recurring thing. In most other games, they slowly advance forward and then start murdering you. It's actually kind of terrifying when you're fighting against them because for quite some time they're just slowly advancing and soaking up all the damage you can do to them, until finally they start murdering. And Rum's an imp. And doesn't know the imp spell, so she can't turn herself back. Except with one of the 18 billion green cherries I've got. So yeah, over time, magic and technology, magic and science just diverged. And it's really not until the 19th century that you get this anti-magic backlash from the more scientifically inclined. A lot of that has to do with, frankly, frauds. In the 19th century, there were spirit mediums and like quack cure sellers going around tricking people, and their fraud was exposed, but in the process that helped generate hostility. And it's not until really into the 20th century that you get, oh, hey, there he goes. So he did twice. He does 2 to 5 hits, kind of randomly. But yeah, it's not really until the 20th century that we get kind of the modern reevaluation, people starting to be a little, swing back the other way, for good and bad. Unfortunately, the idea of a hostility between the sciences and magic/religion has produced some serious unpleasantness. As I record this, a religious fanatic has just been placed in charge of an education task force for the entire country. That's not going to go well, because he's from a faction that are extremely anti-science, and that's going to be bad for education. At the same time, while I myself don't have any particular spiritual beliefs, the hostility to them you find in some quarters does very easily shade over into other forms of unpleasantness. The atheist community, of which I am a member, does have a real problem with racism and anti-Semitism in the form, which take the form of hostility to religion, but manifest the same way as, racism and anti-Semitism. So, that's not great. It's also fairly off topic from the game. The point is that hostility between technology and magic is definitely something that's been present through the whole game, and the game could never really come down on the side of magic fully and firmly. It just can't. Magic is, technology is too important a part of what this game is. It's a video game. It can't exist without technology. It would be hypocritical for it to say, oh, technology's bad, let's go back to magic, even insofar as those are different things. Because, kind of the point I've been trying to make is when it comes down to it, science is magic that works. It's a form of magic. It's a very, very successful, highly reliable form of magic. Probably the most such that we've ever created. But then, the degree to which this game is about balance, suggests that maybe there's a degree of that too. That's really something that we can't follow up until the game's ending. The point is, we've kind of swapped. For the first half of the game, we were on this quest to bring about magic and use it to collapse the evil technological empire. Now we're like, well, maybe magic isn't so great either. You know, maybe the problem is not the form of power, but power itself. And so we're going to have to find a way to remove it. That way being, of course, going into Kefka's tower and killing Kefka. We'll leave open for now the question of, you know, what happens to all that power once, you know, all the power we've accumulated to kill Kefka with once he's gone. I think I'm actually going to end it there. So I will see you all next time. Bye.